Hello, hello, hello! Today I'm going to be talking through the basics of Burp Suite. And if you've never used Burp Suite before, Burp Suite is a collection of tools for doing assessments on web applications. And if you don't know what a web application is, it's just a fancy way of saying a website. It comes from a technical term because a long time ago, websites used to be really basic and didn't have much functionality other than being just storage places for pictures and other random information. And as time went on, websites became more interactive, and the term web application was brought in to describe websites which have more interactivity with them. So that's what a web application is. Now, where Burp Suite comes in is what it is it's a HTTP proxy or a web proxy. So how it works is it sits between your web browser and the website, and this allows it to look at all the requests that your web browser makes and all the responses that come from the web server, and it allows it to analyze those responses and all the information in that. And when you're doing assessments, you can actually get a lot of information from the raw responses from web servers, and Burp Suite also allows you to manipulate the data that's coming from your web browser. So it's an incredibly powerful set of tools. So let's get right into it and get our hands messy with that web application goodness. So what I'm running here is I'm running two virtual machines. On the left, I've got Kali Linux, and on the right, I'm running Metasploitable 2. Now, if you just bear with me here, I'm going to type in ifconfig here, and this just shows us our networking interfaces. And you can see on the right the iNet address. You see where my cursor is. Sorry, it disappears as soon as it goes into the box, but just below where it's disappearing, you can see 192.168.42.3. So that's the IP of Metasploitable. And on the left here, you can see my Firefox browser is going to that IP address there, so 192.168.42.3. Everything that I do it within this hacking environment, this hacking lab, if you will, to make sure we don't get into trouble. So that's just an overview of how things are working. So I am going to minimize Metasploitable, and we are going to just work in Kali Linux. Okay, so this is called the Damn Vulnerable Web App. It's built into Metasploitable, and it's just a collection of like vulnerable web application things that you can play around with. So this is what we're going to be using Burp Suite with. And Burp Suite, to launch it in Kali, in the newer versions you have an icon here in the menu bar, so you can either click that or you can click the menu, and it should be in web application analysis, and it's in there. So I'm just going to use the one up here, and we'll let that load. And then as it's loading, what we have to do is we have to tell Firefox to use Burp Suite. So we'll just have to set this up very quickly. And this can be a little confusing, so bear with me. So Burp Suite started, and it's just asking if we want to create a project. And we don't, we are going to create a temporary project. So just temporary project and next. And use Burp defaults. I've been using this for quite a while now, and it's always the same. It's always temporary project and use your defaults. Unless you're doing really in-depth web application analysis, then there's no need to make projects and things. Just get stuck into it. Now, this is Burp Suite. Now, please, please, please try not to be overwhelmed. It is quite intuitive once you get used to it. But yeah, there's a lot of features in it, so it can be a little bit overwhelming at first. So what we want to do is we want to set up the proxy. So if you look here, the proxy tab, you want to click on that. And then you want to go down to options. Now, you see here, this is the address on which Burp Suite is listening. So we have to tell our Mozilla to use the proxy on 127.0.0.1 and colon 8080, that's the port that it's listening on. And if you've never seen this IP address before, this is a special IP address which is known as the loopback interface. And if I just bring up the terminal, so Control-Alt-T on Kali Linux is the shortcut for this. So if I type in ifconfig, and you can see our network interfaces. You see down below here you've got one that's called LO, and that stands for loopback. So you can see that loopback. And the 127.0.0.1 basically, well, it loops back on itself, funnily enough. And this allows applications to talk to themselves, even though they're running internet protocols and running on TCP. It means they can talk to each other on the same system. So yeah, that's a little bit of information for you. But yeah, back to Burp Suite. So Burp Suite's listening on the loopback on port 8080. So we need to tell Firefox to use that. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either A, go into Firefox's options and change it in there every time you need to use this proxy, or you can download a very handy tool called Foxy Proxy. So I've already got it installed here. You see this little like red circle with like a fox in it. That's Foxy Proxy. It's just an add-on for Mozilla. If you haven't got it, you can just go into the options and then add-ons, and then just type in Foxy Proxy, and you should be able to find it in there. But once you get that, it's easy to install. Like, it's just very straightforward. So once you've got Foxy Proxy installed, you'll probably need to restart Firefox, and then you should have this little icon here. So you want to click on that and then go into options. Now you can see I've already got something set up, so I'm just going to minimize this for now so we can just see our Foxy Proxy little tab. So this is my setting for Burp Suite. So if you just press edit on here, you can see what all my options are. This is what you'll want to set for your one. So you can call it whatever you like, and you can set the color to whatever you like. It's just for in here, it changes the color so you can organize it nicer. So you want it set to HTTP proxy, because it's a web proxy. It's using HTTP to do its communications. And then you want the IP address to be 127.0.0.1. That's the loopback, so that's just telling it to loop back on your own computer. And port 8080 is what Burp Suite uses by default, and you can change it in that options tab I showed you before. Then once this is set, you just press save. And you won't have one here when you first install it, so you'll have to go add, and then you'll just have to put in all the information. But it's exactly what I said before. HTTP 127.0.0.1, port 8080, and then save. And then you should have this here. Now you can get rid of that. And let's get this running again. Okay, once you've got that set, what you want to do on the proxy option here in Burp Suite, you want to click on intercept, because this is another feature. What you can actually do is you can intercept requests and halt them before they go anywhere, and then you can manipulate them, and then you can tell them to go on when you're doing testing. So it's on right now, which we don't want. So we'll just turn that off. So that will let the browser work as usual. And here in our Foxy Proxy add-on, you want to click the burp one that you set up. So you click that, and you see it says burp there. Now, all the requests this Firefox browser is going to make now is going to go through our Burp Suite, and then it will go to whatever website or web server you're trying to connect to. So click HTTP history here. Like, I'm just on the logon for the Dan Vulnerable web application. I'm just going to reload this. So just look on the right here. You should see it pop up when I refresh it. And there you go. You see there, Burp Suite's seeing it. And we can actually look at what the request and the response from the web server looks like. So just a very quick course in HTTP. It stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it's how all web servers transfer their data. And it's a very lightweight protocol. It's a simple request-response protocol. So every time you want to communicate with a website, you send a request and you get a response. And this is where these codes come from as well. Like, these are response codes. Like, you may have heard of the good old 404 file not found response code. That's the HTTP response code. So 200 is good. It's found it. 400s are errors, 300s are redirects, and 500s are server errors, if I remember right. But I may be wrong on that. I'll need to have a look at that actually. But yeah, you get the idea. So we can individually look at the requests and the response that's coming directly from the server, and we get to see the nitty-gritty information. So you can see just from getting this logon page, we get a lot of useful information. So it's responded with the server information. So you can see here it's telling us exact software version information, and look, it even tells us what operating system it's running on. So when you're doing any sort of hacking, this sort of information is like gold dust. It's fantastic because you can use that to try and find exploits and any sort of hacks that are out there, and you can use this information to do some nasty stuff. X-Powered by, that's the PHP version that it's using. What else have we got? Pragma, that's the options for caching, like whether it stores things in web pages and that. Nothing too interesting in there. Yeah, there are some vulnerabilities where you can have it like keep a cache, and you can try and take the cache and you can do some nasty things with it, but there's nothing really interesting in this one. But the rest of this is the HTML information. So HTML file is just a web page. So if you want to see what this actually looks like, you see these buttons here. There's actually a render button. So if I click that, and it should look like what's in our web browser. There you go. You can actually see the HTML rendered in there as well. So yeah, it's some really good stuff. So what other cool stuff can we do with it? I'll demonstrate a couple of bits for you very quickly. So let's log on to this. So if you don't know what the username and password is for DVWA, it's written down here. Username is admin, password is password. So admin, admin, and then password. Don't save, and that's logged in. Now, if we go back to Burp Suite, we can have a look at what that looked like. So let's have a look here. So in the requests, like the most common sort of request that you'll see out there will be a GET. So that's just give me that web page. That'll be a GET request. But if you're sending information such as login details, that will be a POST request most likely. So we'll click on that one, and you can see here we have some interesting information down here. So you can see how the web application actually sends its data. So there's the username, so there's admin, there's password, and login equals logins. That'll probably be for however the script works in the background for the website. So any one of these things, just changing them and having a play with, you might be able to generate some fun things. So let's say we want to do something fun. Let's do a brute force attack. So we've got a web form to log into, and this is what it looks like when it tries to log on. What we can actually do is we can send this to a part of Burp Suite called the Intruder, which is a brute force password tool. So what we do is on the request, you right click and send to Intruder. So go to Intruder, and you see here we have a couple of tabs. So we've got 1 and 2. You can have different like payloads and things if you're dealing with lots of pages, so it's just added one after the default one. So this is the IP address of the Metasploitable web server, and then positions, this is our request, which you may recognize, but it's changed slightly. What it has changed is you can mark this up, and it can be it can add in like word lists into like the password field or the username field. And yeah, this can be a really powerful tool. So it's looked at this, and there is actually an auto button which is filled in. So we don't want to change all of this. So we're just going to click clear here to clear that. And we want to just change the password. So we want to find the password, which is our actual input, which is password here, or you can just double click, and then you want to go over here and click add. So you add these weird little symbols. I forget what they're called, but that marks it out for Burp Suite to input its own word list into it. So attack type, you want sniper. There's a full detail of all the different attack types. There's battering ram, pitchfork, cluster bombs. Sniper's the one we want for this particular type of attack. And then payload. Okay, payload set. We've got one, and we just want a simple word list. So that is set. We just need to load a word list. So there's a lot of interesting options here, but this is a very easy one that we'll do just so you can get a hang of it. So to load a word list, you want to go into this payload options and click load. And I'm in SecList. So if you don't have SecList, you just Google SecList, and there's a GitHub out there which has a load of word lists. And I have it in my user share word list. So Kali has its own ones that are built in. So there's Derb, Derbuster, Metasploit, WFuzz. Like, they're all built in. But SecList is what I use for actual sort of hacking work. So I'll show you how I do it. So SecList, and it has a load of really good word lists in there for passwords, usernames, you name it. So we want passwords, common credentials, and we'll have 500 worst passwords. And you can see here they're all listed. Silver Cowboy. I'm not going to say that one out loud because I'll get in trouble from YouTube. Scroll really quickly. Or that one. There's a lot of swear words in there. I apologize. We'll go back up to the top. Some people. Okay, we've set our word list, and there are other options here, but we don't need to set any here. This is just, we want the position set, sniper, payload set 1, simple list, and you want to load that word list. And once you're ready, you click start attack. And because this is the free community edition, it gives you, you need to spend money on the pro edition, which I highly recommend if you're doing this as a full-time job, because it is really, really, really good. But this is just going to slow down the brute force on it. So just click OK to this option here, and you can see now that it's bombarding the web server with different requests. And you can see for each one, so we'll use Dragon. So you can see here, if I move this, it's put Dragon into where we marked out that password bit, and you can see the response. So 302, it's found the web page in response. And you can see if I iterate through these, you can see for each time it goes through a different one in our word list, it changes it for us. So you can use that to brute force into certain web forms. So we'll just exit out of that. But let's say you want to do slightly more delicate testing like that. I don't recommend using brute force. It's a really heavy-handed way of doing things, and yeah, it's not very elegant. So what else can we do? So say we want to do more fun stuff with this password request, post request. We'll use something that's called the repeater next. So same again, you want to send it to the repeater the same way we did with sending it to the intruder. So right click on the request and send to repeater. You can see up there that's gone that orange color. So I'll just click on that. Now, what the repeater is it allows us to edit the request, and then we can see the response. So if you're doing some very delicate work, you can delete things, change things. So you can change the username to Bob, password to Bob's Burgers. I really do enjoy that show. Login equals... Let's see what this log out, just for fun. Login equals log out. Let's send that, and then you up there. There's a button which will send it to the web server. So send, and this is the response that the web server is giving. Now, I won't go too much into like responses and that because this is just a basic overview. I'm just trying to demonstrate all the different ways you can use it. Okay, another thing you can do, we'll go through the intercept. So the intercept, the option is in proxy and then intercept. And at the beginning I told you to turn it off, and I will show you the reason why. So if I log out on here and click intercept on, this will now stop any requests at Burp Suite. So the web browser will make the request, it will go to Burp Suite, and Burp Suite will hold on to it. And this way you can manipulate things in real time. So if I put admin and let's say we'll put David for the password, and if I click in login, it will hold it. And you can see here the web browser is still trying to load and it's waiting. So over on the right, the intercept, we now have the post request. So you can see here admin and David, and let's change this to password, the actual password. And then once you've edited the request to how you want it, you can press forward and it will forward it on. So we'll click that. And now it's trying to get the index. So forward that. And now we've logged in. And now if we click history, there we go. You can see how this works now, because it's sent the post request, and as soon as it's done that, the server's responded with 302, and then after that it gets the index.php page and then responds with 200, and that gives it the actual rendered HTML file. But yeah, that's the interceptor, and it's useful for what's called client-side input validation. So for like passwords and things, what it can do is you can inject some nasty stuff which can interfere with the back end called it's called SQL injection, and you can sometimes interact with the code and you can bypass logon mechanisms, and intercept can get around the client-side input validation systems which are designed to prevent that from happening. So on the web page, if I try to put that in, it may stop it there. There might be a script or something that's running, and the script will clean it of the nasty code to get around the logon mechanism, and then you can use the interceptor to actually put it back in. But it's an old way of defending which doesn't really come up anymore, but on a lot of exams and things you might be expected to demonstrate it. So yeah, I won't go into much more detail because a lot of the other features are in the pro version, but that is the bread and butter of things. The ability to look at these requests and to manipulate them is the main power behind the Burp Suite. What you can also do with the pro version is it's actually got a crawling and auditing tool, so it can perform basically a vulnerability scan on the website. And you see over here, this is some of the things that it will output, and you'll be able to do further investigation and things on things that it finds. So it's a really powerful tool. And if you are getting into hacking websites, it's something that should definitely be in your arsenal, and you should spend some time learning it because it's just so good. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.